So obviously a lot of the talk around New York these last couple of days is the impending record that Pete Alonso's approaching. Just kind of what are your thoughts on him kind of approaching your record here?
Well, it means he's worked hard. He's dedicated himself to believing in himself, because you have to. And he's been able to stand up, and play in New York in front of the pressure and the expectations, which is very hard to do. I think a lot of times people don't recognize that, and he's a homegrown player, just like I was. And when you've been developed through the organization, like young players, you want to do well. And he's been able to do that. So very pleased with all of that he's about to accomplish. You're talking about a record that's been there for 35 years. That's a long time. And records are meant to be broken. I think too many players that play professional sports always think their records should stand and no one should break it, and that's not true. There are going to be players that come along that will break your record, and I'm happy for Pete because he's a good guy. He's not, he's not one of the bad guys in baseball. He's a guy that, loves playing in New York, and hopefully he'll achieve this soon.
Were you happy to see him come back to the Mets? Obviously, he had an impending free agency. It looked dicey for a little while. Were you happy to see him come back and kind of challenge you for that record?
I was happy, and most people would think, they would rather that you go somewhere else and not be able to chase that. But, after he's accomplished so much already there, you just believe it's home for you. And, hopefully with him coming back and having a great season for them right now and finishing up the season, hopefully he can accomplish, more than just breaking my record. Hope he can go forward and establish his own record for a very long time.
How has the last year and a half for you been, just health-wise? I know you had a heart attack and everything.
It's been good. Thanks for asking. It's been a journey. Life is a journey, and when you see so many of your peers who you played with pass away, like Ricky Henderson. You see Ryan Sandberg just lost his life. And Dave Parker. You see so many guys. Pete Rose. You see so many guys that and battled against, and you have your own challenges in life, and you're still able to stand and walk through. It's a miracle that I'm sitting here. My heart was at 40% when I went into the hospital.
Yeah, I think you're one of only a couple guys in New York history to win a World Series with the Yankees and the Mets. Just what has that kind of legacy meant to you?
It's meant everything. And New York is the most wonderful place to play. On whatever side you're on, you're playing in New York, and Yankee fans are Yankee fans, Met fans are Met fans, but to be able to play in that kind of atmosphere, under that kind of pressure, and you have to deal with that day in and day out, and being able to handle that, it makes you a special player when you truly understand it, not halfway, but to be able to recognize how hard it really is to play in front of this kind of crowd, and the media, the microscope, of everybody there, and opinions, and you still do it. So, I always applaud players that come along behind and being able to do that. I was able to do it, and I saw a lot of great players. Played with a lot of great players. Played with Jeet, Mo, and Posada, Bernie, all those guys who Pettit, all those guys with the Yankees who were, homegrown players that came through the farm system, and they had excellent careers, and played with guys like Tino and O'Neill, So it's really special when you get to play in that place like that and play with great players.
And speaking just a little bit about the Yankees, I guess you're not going to be at Old Timers Day this year?
No, I'm a very busy man. I'm in high demand over baseball, so
okay.
It's really cool to be in a different place, and of course, baseball's fun, but I do have a ministry to run. I am full-time, and I love baseball, but I'm not able to be everywhere.
Okay. I was just wondering, what your experience has been like at those. I mean, obviously you were with the Yankees a shorter period of time, but just, your time with the organization and going back to that a couple times, I guess at least, what's that been like for you?
It's been fun. It's always fun to go back and look at old timers, because it's so funny because guys still think they can play. and it's just not going to happen. I mean, I remember seeing Ricky out there, and he thought he still was a star, you know, and it's always fun to go back and experience those games. It's a big treat because, you know, you look at the guys that you play with, and now all of a sudden we all have, you know, gotten at a different age, and now life is going in a different direction for every last one of us.
Yeah, it sounds like they're bringing back the old-timers game this year. Is that something you're excited to see for the Yankees?
It's good for them. I mean, it's a history of the Yankee organization and the pride of the New York Yankees. I'm quite sure the boss would be looking down, and he would be absolutely thrilled.
What would be your message? Because I know the last week or so has been rough for both the Mets and the Yankees. What would be your message to the players of either team at this moment?
Stop listening to all the noise and focus on what you need to focus on as a player. Sometimes players get caught up in the fact of what's being said about them instead of going out there and just being a baseball player. You know, baseball's a hard game, and you know, you're going to have some roller coaster rides. You're going to have some in-betweens, things that are going to happen, but just don't let it get to you. Remember what got you here, and remember how to do it.
And your thoughts on David Wright getting his number retired joins you, Doc, Keith up in the rafters at Citi Field?
He's one of the bright stars of our younger players that come through the organization. You know, phenomenal person. Had great character, carried himself the right way. Had it not been for his injuries, he would probably had a longer career and had more success. But he had great success in the time that he was there, and you respect that. And that's what baseball is all about, is being able to respect players at every level. I hope players never forget how hard it is to play this game. Sometimes we have a tendency of doing that, you know, after we have taken off the uniform, and you look at some of the younger guys, like a David Wright and other younger players, and sometimes people want to be critical of those guys. I would never be critical of them because I know how difficult it is. And when you play in the spotlight of New York and you're productive, it means a lot to the fans and is well deserved.
And last question for me: next year is the hard to believe 40th anniversary of '86. Have you heard from the Mets about any plans, ceremonies, potentially for next year?
I'm quite sure they probably would do something. You know, you're talking about 40 years, you know, of one of the most flashy, character, I would say. I was going to say charismatic, but we weren't charismatic. We were characters, you know, more character team of all kind to play in New York and be in the bright lights and be able to perform and produce. I think it was just a remarkable time to be a part of that group of guys.
Does it feel like it's almost been 40 years?
Sometime, you know, but sometime when you wake up, you'd be like, oh my God, my neck hurt, my knee hurt. and you remember how difficult it was to, you know, be a part of all that and play at the highest level and have that kind of success and not be intimidated. You know, those years of players like we wasn't intimidated by the pressure of playing in New York. So it was a lot of fun for us to be able to do that.
Yeah, when you come to stuff like this, what do people usually want to know? What are the questions that the fans usually want to ask? Is it more Mets? Is it more Yankees? What do they want to know?
Yeah, they want to know which team is it for you. And I just be like a politician. I tell them New York. Split it right down the middle, you know, keep it that way for them. So, you know, as fans, you know, they battle. I let the fans battle it out. I don't battle it out with the Mets and the Yankees. I was fortunate to be able to play on both teams and played on some great teams in the 80s and played on some great teams in the 90s. And I'm forever grateful for that, for George, the boss, giving me an opportunity to put on the pinstripes and play for the Yankees.
When you look back to your time in the minor leagues before getting called up, just particularly Double-A, what was that level of development like for you, and how important were the things that maybe you learned on and off the field helpful there for when you eventually got the call up?
Double-A is the biggest challenge for players. That's when you're gonna realize what kind of player you are. That's what it was for me. I played in Lynchburg, Virginia the year before and struggled, and I was thinking about maybe quitting and going back to school to probably play basketball because I didn't really like playing where I was playing at. And then I went to Double-A. I went to Jackson, Mississippi, and I hit 34 home runs and stole 45 bases. And then I really realized that I arrived as a baseball player because Double-A was really tough. The Texas League was really tough to play in. There's a lot of competition, a lot of good players, and I'm quite sure these young players are going through the kind of the same thing at this level. I think Double-A is more difficult to play than Triple-A because you got to learn how to be really good at what you're doing in Double-A, and you got to be disciplined. You get to Triple-A, guys are more around the plate, and I think Double-A is where you gain that experience of knowing that this is the type of player I can be at every level. And so hopefully these guys, in Double-A, I know there's a lot of prospects down here from each team. They learn about themselves because they're steps away from the big leagues. They come into the big leagues a lot younger than they ever have, and doesn't mean because you're playing for one of these teams, you can't be traded, you can't go to another team and get to the big leagues from Double-A. So these guys are knocking at the door to the next step to the big league. So most important thing is just to have fun playing for them.